Well, everyone out there, this is not as much of an episode about flowers or farming, but it is probably one of the most important episodes we've had in quite a while because we get questions a lot of times about Pinterest and about, people complaining about what it is and what it isn't. And today's guest, welcome Jen, is an expert when it comes to Pinterest. And I feel like this is an underutilized tool. And before we jump into some tips and stuff, I'd kind of like to hear your backstory. How did you get to where you are? So, welcome, and I'd love to hear your story.
Yay! Anytime I get to talk about Pinterest is a good day. Um, I started Pinterest in 2009. So I was in corporate America doing sales and marketing, educating people on how to use relationship marketing before it was a thing. And I was leaving in the morning before my kids woke up, and I was coming home at night after they already went to bed. And I have four kids.
Wow.
And I just couldn't do it. I just was very frustrated. I had been photographing family sessions and things on the side for years, and I just gave notice one day, surprising my husband
Oh my
a lot.
goodness.
And I just took my marketing knowledge and decided to I'm going to make this wedding photography is what I focused on, but I do portraits and all that kind of stuff. And in 2009, a friend sent me an invitation to Pinterest. This is when it was in beta. It didn't officially launch till 2010. And I just recognized, or had dumb luck, but I think I really recognized the value of that free tool, right? It was free. This is before Instagram. This is before Facebook. This is before social media. But I knew that it was visual and I'm a photographer. So it
Yeah.
was really a smart move that I'm so happy I made. And it helped me to grow my photography business. It truly did. And then I had a bunch of wedding pro friends saying, how are you growing your business? Like, how are you using, what do you mean Pinterest? Pinterest what? Like over the years, just asking. And in finally, literally 2 years, one of my friends for 2 years was bugging me to launch a business until my youngest was graduating from high school. And then I said, okay, I'm going to take a big jump. And I launched this Pinterest marketing business. And I now have an agency where we actually do Pinterest for people, as well as educating and a membership to help people learn and have access to me for questions about them and their business. So it's been a passion for years, but through the iterations and changes, it is still driving amazing traffic. In fact, some of my top pins are from 7 years ago. And anyone out there who knows photography is like, I don't want my 7-year-old photos being out there, but they're still booking clients. And then they're surprised by how amazing my photography is now. So it's just effective.
That is insane. So you're like an OG.
I am a definite OG.
I love this. I love this so much. Well, and I feel like everybody kind of lumps Pinterest into the same family of platforms like Instagram, like Facebook, and I understand why, but I know, and I am not by any means an expert on this. I We dabble in it, and I know that there's always room for improvement, and I know I have some ideas I wanted to add to mine, but nevertheless, I'm like, it's just a different class. It's just a totally different platform. So let's start right off the bat. Let's ask. So, what's the difference in social media
Uh-huh.
and Pinterest?
Ah, I have a ton of differences, but I'm going to throw you a couple stats because I find that they shock and amaze me on a regular basis. So I'm going to share them
Okay.
with you. These are current for 2023. Um, Pinterest had over 450 million monthly active users, meaning every single month, 450 million people are actually pinning and searching on Pinterest. The The total number of monthly active viewers has grown steadily over the past 3 months to 5 million. And then this is the big stat that, well, two stats that shock everyone. One is there is less competition on Pinterest for businesses. If you ask around to your friends that are in business, chances are they aren't using it for business. They could be using it personally. Almost everyone uses it personally, but not for business. And so this is how has less competition. TikTok has 1.051 billion users,
Yeah.
Instagram 2 billion, YouTube 2.514 billion, Facebook 2.9 billion, and Pinterest is 450 million. So there are less people on there for business marketing their business. And when it comes to social media platforms, Pinterest, and you're going to hear this, I'm sure, all over the place, but Pinterest is considered a social media platform if you look at your Google Analytics to be checking about which of your marketing efforts are paying off, right? Pinterest
Hmm.
drives an immense amount of traffic. So it's in the section for social media platforms, but it is a search engine right up there with Google and YouTube. And Google owns YouTube. So Pinterest is literally like the second one, different company, right? That has searchability, and people on there are ready to buy. They're ready to do something. They're ready to make a change in their life or their business. And if your business is on there, you can capture it. And the last thing I want to share is that when it comes to social media platforms, the time that you invest in Pinterest is the biggest benefit to your time buck, because as entrepreneurs, time is always an issue with
Right.
running our businesses. A post on Instagram is about 24 to 48 hours. If you have like a viral reel, it might be 2 weeks. TikTok is negligible unless you're a viral account. Facebook, I think, is like 4-ish hours. And Pinterest is 3.92 months. So for each pin that you put on there, you're still getting views and seen in searches for at a minimum 3, almost 4 months. But like in my case and many of my clients, sometimes the pins that really resonate with people are going to be on there at the top of the list for years.
Yeah. I mean, you were saying how old was the photograph that was still bringing in clients?
7 years old,
Seven.
which is
Wow.
really embarrassing as a photographer, but it just proves how effective YouTube, or excuse me, Pinterest is.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. I know, and as you just said, I feel like a lot of that that time savings, as you just described, is because it's not as big of a platform as the others. But the power to me in Pinterest is also, like you've already said, that searchability. Um, and there's two sides of this that I think I want to kind of break down a little bit. There's the side, when you're a florist or you're, a farmer florist or whatever, and people are bringing you these images. You wish they were yours, right? But sometimes they're not. Most of the time, probably not. They're collections of everything they see. So there's that side, which can be frustrating. But to me, it's like how you get your stuff out there where people, I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunity from a lot of florists out there that are trying to reach new clients. And I'm really curious, how do you navigate that with some of your clients?
Um, I really don't run into that issue very
Really?
much. A lot of my clients are photographers, so that's kind of a moot point. But even like several of my clients are makeup artists, and they are introducing themselves by email once they're hired to the photographer and asking if they can get images from the photographer to share. I'm a photographer, and I always shared my stuff with vendors, because the more they're sharing their stuff, the more
Right.
my name is getting out there. And so I find that it's a matter of building those relationships before the wedding, because after the wedding the photographer is out of control busy. But if you make that because a lot of our work is after, right?
Sure, right.
If you make that relationship in an email or a text or a DM on Instagram, you'll be shocked at how many photographers absolutely want to share your information. Of course, you want to list all of the vendors in the
Right.
posts. I do that and I'm the photographer, but it's just smart, right? Not only that, but a lot of my vendor friends will reshare that on their Pinterest, and then I'm getting seen even more with my pin. So I find that if and Instagram is very pristine. Pinterest is loves more of the behind the scenes and the real stuff. So as
Hmm.
long as you have good light, using your cell phone when you're putting the flowers together with behind the scenes, oh my gosh, you'll get so many clients on Pinterest with that. Um, Photographing or videotaping the flowers after they're set up at the venue with your own cell phone, like I personally, as a wedding vendor, if I wasn't a photographer, I would do all of that and still build the relationship and ask for the professional photos.
That's incredible. Well, and I'm wondering, you mentioned Instagram there for a second, and Instagram over the last, I don't even know now, what year and a half has been pushing the reels, and they've changed their algorithm a couple times, and they anyway. All that being said, what is Pinterest sort of promoting right now, or what is their algorithm hot for right now?
Um, so the difference is that Instagram is pushing the things that keep people on their cell phones. Pinterest is pushing the things that people are searching for. It's just a totally different platform. And if you, as a person using Pinterest for a business, one of the number one things that you want to focus on is keywords, and not the keywords we think people are searching for, but doing research on the Pinterest profile, on the platform, in the search function to see what order different keywords come up in, because the high when you put it I'm going to do this over the phone, like on a podcast, but I can do this. If you open your Pinterest account, you can pause this if you want and then go ahead and listen later, but put put your Pinterest account up, click on the little magnifying glass on the top right side, type in a keyword you think people are looking for, and you'll get a drop down menu. And all the search words on that drop down menu, typically there's 7 or 8, just depends on what you're searching for. Write all of those down, because all of those are the top searches. So even if your keywords aren't what works, they're going to suggest to you keywords to type in that you can
Oh,
find information at. So it's different in that Instagram is all about keeping people online and showing people beautiful things, if clearly edited, right? And in my opinion, it could be bullying, it can make you feel less than, it can give you feelings when you're on there. Pinterest is the literal most positive corner of the internet, and that was 89% of Pinterest users said that. So
wow.
it is a hugely positive platform. When you go to Pinterest, you're going to improve your life or improve your business and look at the different ideas. You're going there with excitement. On Instagram, I find I'm going there and I'm seeing other people that I think maybe are a little better, or maybe they're doing something different. And I'm always feeling like I'm not doing enough. But when I go to Pinterest, I'm like, I got this. I'm going to find this and I'm going to do this. It is a very positive platform. And for someone who doesn't want to appear on reels and things like that, video, face to video type of stuff, Pinterest is amazing to take. And on Pinterest, you have idea pins, you have video pins, and you have standard pins, as well as product pins, but I don't dip into that type of the business. But you could take photos of your work. You can take your before photos, like as you're putting it together, and then a video of after, and maybe a gorgeous a picture from your photographer. Make it a video in Canva, and it's beautiful and it works very well on Pinterest. Where on Instagram right now, it's the face to camera stuff.
Yeah.
So I find that it's a lower effort and lower energy. And you can get away with like one pin a day on Pinterest and still find great results. Um, and you can sit down for an hour and plan out 2 weeks and be done for 2 weeks. Where Instagram, I feel like it's always more, always more, always more.
Now, and I'm going to show my ignorance again because I
That's
am not
okay.
on Pinterest as much as I want to be sometimes.
Yeah.
If with the other platforms, engagement is very much a part of the algorithm. On Pinterest, is there that opportunity? And this is what I don't know. Is there that same opportunity for engagement, or is it more just people interacting with your pins and with the content you've created, not necessarily with you personally?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a little bit of all of that, if I'm being honest.
Sure.
The algorithm is favoring saves, likes, shares, uh, resharing the pin.
Hmm.
Um, and all of those things. That is what they do because they're building a trust with your company, you using Pinterest for your business. And so if they're putting out stuff and people click on it and they stay for a little bit reading a blog or whatever it is, then Pinterest is believing that you're more of an expert and is going to show your stuff to more people.
Okay.
If your pin says something like the best florals in the world, and they click through and they see a blog post and there's like only one picture and a bunch of opinions on how great they are, they're going to probably pop right back onto Pinterest, right? Because it's not connecting.
Yeah.
And so I always say you want to use keywords on your pins that you make, keywords, text overlay on them that gives them a reason to click. Because in business, using Pinterest for business, the key metrics that I'm looking at for my clients are the clicks. And a click is where you tap on a pin and the pin opens up and you have the image on one side and you got the description on the right side. And you think, okay, do I want to click through and read it or watch it? Like it's a, am I going to be interested thing, right? And then outbound clicks are the people that take that next step and click through to your helpful information for your industry that's going to get people interested in your company. Those outbound clicks are gold. Those are the ones that you want to measure. I have started working with clients and they have one client in particular had 600,000 monthly views, but they had very, very little outbound clicks. So, yes, they were successful on Pinterest. But as businesses, we want to be successful at growing our business, right? We don't care if Pinterest loves us. We just want people going to our site and our
Right.
content to potentially work with us. We ended up growing it to 1 million monthly views, but their outbound clicks grew like by 1059%. Like it's
Wow.
those that's the money click, I call it.
Right. Well, I
So
mean,
when
that's
you're
the
doing,
follow
yeah,
through.
and you want to do analytics because Pinterest analytics are going to go up and down. It's very seasonal, right? For photographers, November, December, January, that's the times that brides get engaged and they immediately go to Pinterest. So our big season is there. So if you're like in June, there's hardly anything going on because we're photographing weddings and people are getting married and there's not as much interaction on there. So numbers are going to go up and down, but the key is that you're growing month over month or year over year, and you're increasing those outbound clicks because that's what makes Pinterest marketing successful is if it's growing your business. But I have to add, on the other hand, a
Mhm.
lot of people have a tremendous amount of outbound clicks, but their website isn't capturing them to be clients, right? So your website, wherever you're driving them to, whether it's a blog post, well, let's just use a blog post as an example. Most people put their blog on there, pretty pictures, and they call it a day. But you don't, that will never be successful, not just for Pinterest, but for your business. You want to add a call to action. Is there a freebie you can offer to get them on your email list? Because then it's worth that outbound click because you've got a client on your email list which oftentimes is where 20% of your sales are going to come from, is that email list. Also, you want to put other blogs on that page. I always put three different blogs that are on the same topic, whether it's wedding planning or photography or whatever it is, because I want people to stay in that loop on my website, to go from link to link to link to link. So if you're selling something, you can put products on that blog post, educational blog post. Call to actions on the place where they're going is one of the most important ways that Pinterest will be successful. And the thing that people come to me and say, Pinterest is just not working. I'm like, okay, how is it not working? Like, give me some information. And then I look at their website and it doesn't have anything. It doesn't encourage them to do anything or take any action.
Yeah. It's kind of also like when you follow somebody and you start engaging with them and you feel like they're in your area and then you find out, oh, they're on the other side of the world. It's kind of like, making sure that you're reaching your corner of the earth. And I'm curious, what is the best way of doing that? Is that part of the keywords you put in there, San Francisco, California, or
Yeah.
how?
I'm so happy you asked me that, because this is the number one way wedding pros, any businesses really, but wedding pros and local based businesses. And if you are a traveling photographer or traveling anything, don't ignore what I'm saying right now, because it still applies. But with Pinterest, if you want to grow your business and you're locally based, you want to use all of the keywords for the area you're in. So I'm in San Jose, California. That could also be Silicon Valley. That can also be Bay Area. That can also be San Francisco Bay Area. And when I photograph in different cities, I use those cities as well. Plus, when I do traveling photography, I'm also going to be using those keywords. Hopefully Italy one day. That is a goal. But for
There you
right
go.
now, I'm using all of the local based keywords. And I really recommend that if you're a local business, if you focus on local keywords only, you will find so much more success, and you can grow that traveling business, or being able to go to other areas. Because I want you to think really deeply when you search for something on Pinterest yourself. Do you not always put in the city? Especially like wedding couples.
Yes.
They're never going to type United States photographer, right? They're going to type San Jose, Bay Area, whatever they happen to type in, whatever they feel is an acceptable area. That's where they're going to look. I also use Northern California because I'll photograph
Right.
anywhere in Northern California. I also photograph in Southern California a lot, but I only use keywords from down south when I'm pinning, when I have a pin from a job that I have down there. So keywords is one of the secret weapons, and I don't mean to make it in a negative way, but the biggest mistake that people using Pinterest to market their local business, that's the biggest mistake they make.
Mm. Well, and I can see too, because I'm thinking, I know a lot of our listeners may be, florists and wedding professionals, but I also know from the farmer standpoint, if you're growing flowers and you're selling direct to consumer and people, what a great way to be discovered that way. And it's kind of like, I feel like so many times, I mean, I was on Instagram the other day. I was tracking down a grower and I got on their page and I'm like, where are they located? I don't know where they're located. I found them finally, but I
But
don't know
but
where they
but
are.
how much time is the average consumer going to spend finding them?
Yeah.
Probably not a lot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Why not make it easy?
Yeah. And not only that, but like, you don't want to use industry specific words. And I'll give you an example. When a
Okay.
bride is looking for her bouquet, she would probably type in San Jose bouquet, which is not something we would think of, or San Jose flowers instead of San Jose florist. I'm not saying not to use those, but in addition, make sure you're looking on Pinterest to see what's resonating, because there's all kinds of names for everything we do. I know photographers will tend to use things like e-sessions. which
Mm.
are engagement sessions, but it's an industry term that we should never be using in marketing because we're not going to get that searchability with those keywords anywhere, not Pinterest.
Well, I'm glad you said that. So if I was going up to the search part of the top of the screen and I type in bouquet and it knows where I'm located, right? Because I've already put that into my profile.
It's not going to find you that way.
Okay,
You
good.
have
That's
to say the city.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then you
Yeah.
put the city in there and you put the bouquet and then it will drop down and then give you other
Yeah,
suggestive
it'll give you
phrases.
pins, and on the top left, it'll show profiles. But also you'll get that drop down menu. I always recommend look at some competitors or people that pop up in a search
Mm.
and click on their thing and see what keywords they use in their profiles. So let's talk about profiles for a second.
Okay, I love this.
A
Yes.
lot of people will say things like, I adore weddings. I love love. um, dog and cat lover. All these different things that you might see on Instagram, which you still shouldn't use on Instagram, but let's say you use those on Instagram, okay?
Okay.
Um, Instead, shoppers on Pinterest, by the way, about 60% of the shoppers on there have incomes over 100,000. So your people that have money are on there. So just know that first. But second, you want to make sure that you are describing in that profile description your transformation. So I have something like, I help fun, playful, and adventurous couples elope in Yosemite, Big Sur, blah, blah, blah. Like, so in that description, you want to say who you help, like who is your ideal client,
Hmm.
what do you do, and I provide photos that last for generations. Like, put the transformation, I always think if you're a client and you land on there, you're like, why should I like you? Why should I book you? You want that reason right in that description. And instead of your name being your company name, you want to say something like company name and then Bay Area flowers or Bay Area florist. In that situation, you can use florist. Whatever it is that you found in the search that is the best keyword for your
Hmm.
business, you want to use that in your name. Not the name on the URL link, but the name that's right under your image, your profile image.
Well, that makes me ask this question. Is everything on Pinterest searchable?
Every single thing. So, two things. One, because I mentioned profile image, I have a little alarm going off in my head.
Uh-oh.
Make sure that your profile image on Pinterest is exactly the same as Instagram, because Instagram is one of the avenues for a client journey. Some will go directly to your website and will book you or follow you for a while, but most, and I'm talking 80% of my clients that booked me last year, saw me on Pinterest, went to Instagram, hung out for a while, and then connected with me in the DMs or went to my website. And when I asked them, as we all do as business owners, how
Hmm.
did you find me? People say, oh, Instagram. And no business that I've ever started working with says, do you ask another clarifying question? Do you say, oh, great, you found me on Instagram. Were you referred to me by someone? Because I'd love to thank them. Or did you find me with a hashtag? And you know what hashtag isn't it? Because FYI, we want to know what that hashtag is. But what happens is the majority of people, when you ask them that question, they'll pause. And 82.9% of my clients last year actually said, oh, actually, I found you from a Google search with your blog post, or I found you on Pinterest. It had nothing to do with Instagram, because what they're telling you is where they first connected with you, where they decided to take that step of connecting with you. Then the next thing that I want to say about everything being searchable, oftentimes people don't change the name of the image for the pin. So let's say we go into Canva and we make a video, or are making pins. You want to save the title of those pins with keywords. Winter wedding with blues and greens at XYZ venue. If you name that image, that pin graphic, when it goes on there, it's in the search. When people search, the first thing that comes up is pins.
Hmm.
So make sure you're changing the name of the image. I name all of my photography images in that way because it's so more helpful to getting clients. And one thing I will say that just popped up in my head on in terms of location specific, right? I'm in the Bay Area. A lot of people come here to get married. Even if you're in a place that you don't think anyone comes there to get married, that happens. Just trust me. I've booked 3 clients specifically last year from Ohio, from Utah, and from Southern California because they were coming to get married here. And they found me either on Pinterest or a blog or both. Most of them found me by both. So make sure that you're blogging about your work. Even if, I mean, if you're using Pinterest, you need to have a blog because the blog is how Google finds you, and Pinterest searches come up in Google. Like in a Google search, a lot of them are Pinterest. So bottom line is you want to make sure that you're using all the keywords in blogs and Pinterest and naming the pins because everything is searchable on both platforms.
So is there a maximum title that you can put on a photograph? Because I know like with the
No.
podcast, we do ID3 tag, we do a lot of embedded things into the episode, so it makes it more searchable. And with photos, I know that's possible, but I'm really bad at it. I don't do it. So you can
Are
just
you
put that
talking
into the
about
title.
are you talking about putting kind of keywords embedded in the photo?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Pinterest can read that, but I know for a fact that Pinterest reads the actual title of the image, like the
Okay.
name of the image. And to I have very long image names and I've never had an issue.
Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. I feel like with everybody that you work with, I'm kind of curious, what is one of I think everybody comes at this from a different point of view. What do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about Pinterest?
The two biggest misconceptions. One is Pinterest doesn't work. And my
Mm.
question is, well, how did you use it? And I can tell you tweaks to make that will make it work. Or two, that it's just when they're thinking about, okay, I'm on Instagram, I need to get on TikTok, I need to have a this, I need to have a that. It's just like, I can't handle one more platform. When in reality, it is the easiest and low energy platform to be on. I take everything that I do. So if I'm going to film a video for Instagram, I put it as an idea pin. I save it and put it on as a video pin. I put it on YouTube Shorts. I put it on TikTok. I put it on LinkedIn. I put it everywhere, but I do it in platform with a title inside the platform because titles for any short form videos are searchable. And so many people don't use that, and you'll get found so much faster.
Hmm.
But Pinterest, in my opinion, because there's a scheduler within Pinterest. It's limited to up to 2 weeks and 30 pins, but that's plenty for you if you're doing 1 pin a day. Or if you use something even more powerful like Tailwind. For my personal stuff, I work on pinning in 1 day for the entire month or 2. I've done 2 months in a day. With my clients, I do once a week and make sure they're scheduled out at least 2 weeks because as an agency, I can't run behind ever. But it's so effective to set up the workflow how you want to work.
And with that, do you feel like, I feel like with some of these other programs, and I'm thinking right now, and I'm not trying to talk bad about it. I just
Sure.
go, but like later, for example, like
Uh-huh.
using later to do some of your posts, you find because, it's so convenient to use that because it will auto publish whatever. But because you're not posting it directly, like you just described, sometimes you lose that engagement side of it. Do you see using the scheduler as has any difference in the effectiveness of your posts or
It's
pins?
actually not at
Okay,
all, at all. And it's not really on any platforms. So oftentimes what I find is, first of all, idea pins have to be posted on the platform. So that cannot be scheduled.
sure.
But anything else can absolutely be scheduled. And this is how, I don't know for sure about Instagram, but I know for Pinterest in particular, it
Hmm.
is Tailwind, as an example, is an approved vendor. I think Later is also. If it's an approved vendor, it is in Pinterest's best interest to not throttle back on the stuff, on anything, because those programs help you to save time, or you might not be on there.
Right,
Right? If
exactly.
I can't save time, I might not do it. I also ran a test. I did 1 week of doing everything on Tailwind for Instagram and for Pinterest. And then I did the very next week in, like, just automatically putting it on myself, spending way more time,
Right.
and I got less engagement. So
Mm.
it could have been an off week, it could have been anything, but it's not a big enough difference that it's even going to matter. Like, that's the last thing you should worry about, is my opinion on that.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that because
Yeah.
I know that I've heard different schools of thought on it, and
I think
so
it's more
yeah.
like conspiracy theories. And then it kind of gets going, and people don't know a lot about the algorithm anyway. And so it just gets perpetuated. But the platforms, for any social media platform, the programs pick the best times with the highest engagement for you. You're never going to be able to do that on your own
Right.
unless you go into the insights, you look at this for last week, you decide to, like, the time it's going to take, it's truly not worth it, right? For me as a business owner, I have a lot of client work. I'm not going to be spending all that time. And especially when I ran those 2 tests, and I did that about 6 months ago, I found zero difference. If anything, the program, Tailwind, was 10 times more effective.
Hmm. That's good to know.
Yeah.
That's really good to know.
Yeah.
One of the things you kind of talked about a second ago, um, I I know, and I want to talk about all ways to connect to you here in a minute, but listening to your podcast, because yes, you have a podcast, which is awesome. Talking about repurposing content, like you just described. I mean, do you find that you create certain kinds of content for one platform, and maybe is Pinterest, like, I think we talked about this a second ago, but I'm trying to figure out if there's a better kind of content to post there.
Yeah. So in terms of Pinterest, um, in terms of repurposing in general, I find that when I'm working with my clients, I create a marketing workflow for them that works for their time and their energy. Like, how many days a
Mm-hmm.
week do you have to work on marketing in general? How many, all those things. And then I create a workflow that typically starts with a blog. Um, in some clients, it starts with YouTube video or a podcast. Either way, it starts somewhere with a bulk of content where you're going a little deeper. And then from that, you're going to create 2 to 3 social media posts. You're going to create an email, a weekly email for that content, right? Like, it's a workflow. And part of the way that it makes it easier for my clients in particular is to do like-minded work at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, when you're writing the blog or you're writing social media, like the post, what you're going to put in that post, the writing should all be done together. So when you write that blog, you should be writing what you're going to say for the social media post, everything at the same time. You're not having to go back in, get your head back into that blog and figure it out. That's not going to be helpful. Then either in the afternoon or the next day, depending on your schedule, you want to work on all the graphics for the blog post, the graphics for YouTube, like a thumbnail, all those things, including pins and social media posts. Then you're going to take all of that content and you're going to load it in a program, or you have it somewhere where you're going to access to post it in real time. And I don't believe, unlike some people that you're going to hear, that you need to wait 5 hours or the next day to post it on another social media platform. Nobody, and I'm going to say this for those in the back, nobody is seeing every single post on every single platform even if they're following you everywhere. And most people don't do that. So take the time to post it when you want in your platform. If you're posting it in real time, just go to all the platforms and post it back to back to back to back. Get it done. But that should be done on a different day as well. It helps you to save time, mental space, changing from the creative side of your brain to the technical side of your brain, all the things. Um, and then
I
the
love that.
other, what was the second part of your question? Sorry.
You're gonna ask me to remember? No, that's
I know.
I'm already
It,
like
it
enthralled with
was
you
good. You
said.
talked about
Um,
process and oh well, we'll
no,
just
wait, it was oh my
I get on a roll.
gosh, it's okay. You're doing great. Um, yeah,
That's all right.
I'm like already on to the next question. That's the reason
I'm
why I have
good.
my
I'm ready for the
hand.
next
Okay,
question.
so I was listening again, in preparing for this episode. I realized how little I know about this. So, but you said something, and I'm like, because I kind of feel Instagram is this way too, but that it's there's so many more things using the app versus using your laptop on Pinterest. Is that true? Did I understand that, or what is
Yeah,
the
no,
benefits?
actually, that's really smart. And it reminds me of the second part of your question that I didn't get to is what type of content works well
Oh,
on the
that's right.
different platforms. And I think it is important to cover that. I'm not going to cover all of it. I'm going to mainly focus on Pinterest for obvious reasons,
Sure.
but um, Pinterest in particular really does well with how to's, 5 tips to XYZ, behind the scenes, a day in the life, those types of things. The things that sometimes resonate on TikTok and Instagram is like lip syncing to certain sounds that are viral. Those,
Yeah.
unless it's like an introduction about yourself, it's not really good to try to cross promote. Number one, you can download it, but it downloads it with the logo of Instagram or TikTok, and you do not want that on Pinterest. If you want to take the time and go to TikSnap and take all those watermarks off the video and then put it on, but then you can't use that music on
Right.
Pinterest. So voiceovers or music in the background don't work, but I always recommend before you post on TikTok or Instagram, like save it as save it right then, because then you'll get your video. And then you can use any of the music that's on Pinterest. The idea pins can be done on a laptop, desktop, or the app. But if you use the app for idea pins, it gives you cool stickers. You can tag other companies. Like there's a reason to really use the app for it. All the other like pins and videos and stuff, just use your scheduler. It's the best use of time.
Okay. Well, and I love that about you, that when it comes right down to it, that is the over, it's the efficiency, it's the time.
If you're
Um,
just starting out on Pinterest, go ahead and use idea pins on your laptop because it is easier to make them there, I find.
mhm.
But if you want to use the fancy stickers and all that stuff, which of course the algorithm likes,
Sure.
then you do need to use the app. I'm all about saving time while still getting work done. And sometimes my advice will not be about the perfect Pinterest workflow, but more how do you fit it in your business with all the other things you're using.
That's a good point. Now, do you see there's any difference, and you may have already answered this, but between a product-based business versus a service-based business?
Yes, there is a difference. Product-based businesses, you can, if you have enough products and you're doing everything right on Pinterest, for lack of going into super big details on that,
Hmm.
you could get like a verified, person that's trustworthy to like have your products on their back end synced
Okay.
from whatever you're using, Shopify or your WooCommerce on your website, whatever it is. So I would really focus on making sure you're doing all the things right so you can try to get that. But that's really the only difference. So I have coaches that are my clients, and they have downloads or templates, and those are considered products. But
Sure.
I will just make pins on that and link to their website where they're selling that product. Right. I'm not going to go in and get merchant verified for those products, because that's not really the bulk of their business. But I have a soap maker who is a client in my membership, so I'm not doing the work for her. I don't work with e-commerce customers, but she's in my Pinterest membership, and she sells handmade soaps and things. And she got merchant verified with my help and working on all those things. But it's not necessary, in my opinion, for service-based businesses.
Mm. No, and I like that too, because then you're really treating it kind of like a funnel more than you are a store.
Yes. You're wanting to get people to your content. They're
Right.
gonna buy stuff there, whether it's templates or flowers for a farm or whatever it is. But if you focus on educational content in your space,
Hmm.
people are searching for that. And people that are going to hire, let's say, to get flowers for their wedding wholesale from a farm or something, they're going to be looking for education on how to pick a flower farm, how to pick, like, all these things. And once they start consuming that content, they're going to be like, they've helped so much, I'm going to pick them. Right. So you want to provide value for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I love this. Okay. This question just popped into my head, which scares me a little bit. But we're going to say, there's a lot of people who put all of their energy into Facebook and Instagram, and they're like, I can't handle one more thing. And Pinterest has been something like, oh, I know I need to get to, or I started it and then I ran away from it. And I'm like, if you're sort of new, where is a good place like to start? Is it, because it can be a little
Yeah.
overwhelming, and I'm just kind of curious what you think about that.
So if someone is new, where to start on Pinterest?
Right.
Okay, I didn't know if you meant where to start, like which platform,
No, I'm
because
like,
my honest truth is that you should start on Instagram, because a lot of people are shopping there. Like, if
okay,
I had to pick two, I would pick Instagram and Pinterest.
okay,
I'm doing all of them, but that's my whole workflow, and it makes it easy and blah, blah, blah.
I get it.
Um, when you start on Pinterest, the first thing that you need to do is get a Pinterest business account. So many businesses I know have a personal account, and they're not going to get seen as much.
Hmm.
There it is. I'm telling you, you need a Pinterest business account, because they also have bells and whistles like analytics that you need to look at to be a smart marketer on that platform. So you want to have a business Pinterest account. You want to claim your website. So many people have not claimed their website, and claiming the website, Pinterest users are savvy, and they go to your profile. They know exactly to click the little world that takes them to your website if they want to go straight there. So make sure you claim your website. Plus, it shows you the analytics of people going from Pinterest to your website, and you want to know those things,
Yeah.
right? The next thing that I would say is to create an amazing how you transform people, and what
Hmm.
your ideal client is in the description. You want to make sure you have your biggest keywords in your name. We want to use a profile image the same one you use on Instagram. And then you want a cover photo that in 2.5 seconds tells people what you do. If you're a flower farm, you want to be on your farm in the dirt with your little boots holding a bunch of flowers, right? You want a picture that tells people exactly who you are and what you do. For photographers, I always want photographs behind the photographer, seeing the photographer photograph a wedding couple, a family, whatever their business is. So that's the other thing people forget to do. I can't tell you about how many Pinterest accounts I've done audits for that there's like literally no picture, and people will look at a picture before they'll look at words every day of the week.
Yeah, we're trained for that, aren't we?
Yeah. And start a schedule of once a day pinning. Again, through the Pinterest scheduler, which you can do up
Hmm.
to a couple weeks. So batch it, spend an hour today pinning for the next However far you get when you first start, maybe you can only pin for a week, right? You only can make 7 pins in that 1 hour. But as you start working on it with anything else that you're learning, my clients now spend an hour and have planned their content for a month.
That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
It's so efficient. Jen, you are, I mean, we have just scratched the surface here. And I know that people want to know how can we get more of this goodness. So tell us more of how you connect like with people, your company, and of course the name of your podcast and all things Jen
Yeah.
here. Tell us all
And
about it.
I'll share all my links with you and you can choose what you put on there because
Absolutely.
there's a lot of them. But like the number one way that I love to connect with people really is Instagram DMs, because Instagram DMs is where I typically talk with people. I also am starting to do a weekly live where I'm going to do audits of people's Pinterest accounts. So you could get that done for free. I have a YouTube channel under Jennifer Vazquez, 2 Z's in Vasquez. My podcast is Marketing Strategy Academy. It's on all the platforms. And I'm Jen Vasquez Media on Instagram. So at Jen Vasquez Media with 2 Z's.
Well, and I know too, okay, I feel a little dated here all of a sudden, this is crazy. I know that I also enjoyed some clubhouse time that you
Oh, I am
spent.
on Clubhouse every week or more. And that's in the Wedding Pros Club that we have about, God, I think it's 18,000 people in that club now.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's Wedding Pros Club. You can find it on Clubhouse. I love going on there and giving Pinterest tips.
Yeah, there's some, yeah, I know several of the things that I heard today was there, and I thought that was great. Well, I always like to end with the last piece of advice, and it can be something that maybe someone shared with you or you'd like to share with our listeners.
I'm going to keep it Pinterest as I typically do. And if you are planning, oftentimes I'll talk with people and they get very excited and they say, okay, I'll start next month or I'll start in 2 weeks. And I always say, okay, do you have that on your calendar? Like, let's take action, right? If you do nothing else after listening to this podcast, but go onto your Pinterest account, make it a business account if it's not, do all the little things that I just mentioned, do that alone. And having an optimized Pinterest will already start bringing, people your way, traffic, and ultimately leads. So instead of putting it off, just sit down while you're listening to this and work on your Pinterest profile.
Well, I think that's great. And, I love to end with a call to action just because we've already talked about that. And I think that's just the perfect way to end. So, Jen, thank you so much for being on the Flower Podcast.
I appreciate the invite and I'm happy to come back anytime with any questions people have.
Awesome. Thank you so much.